All right, let's talk Kubernetes. Not all pods are created equal, right? Some are totally expendable, while others, well, they're built to be unbreakable. Today, we're diving into that top tier, the guaranteed quality of service class. This is the secret to making your most critical applications virtually untouchable.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll break down what guaranteed actually promises you. Then I'm going to show you the one simple golden rule to get it. We'll see how these pods survive when a node is under pressure. We'll put it into action with a real example. And finally, we'll talk strategy, when you should actually use this powerful feature. Let's get started with the promise.
So first things first, what are we actually getting when we talk about a guaranteed pod? And it's way more than just a label, Think of it like a contract you're making with Kubernetes.
Just think about it for a second. Your production database, or maybe your critical monitoring agent. What if you could just tell Kubernetes, hey, look, no matter what else is going on this node, no matter how many other apps are fighting for resources, this one stays up. That's the kind of peace of mind we're talking about here.
So the official definition is that the guaranteed QoS class gives your pods the absolute highest level of resource assurance. And the way it works is pretty cool. Kubernetes basically carves out and reserves the exact CPU and memory you ask for before it even puts the pod on a node. What that means for you is your app will never, ever be starved for those resources as long as the node itself is running.
Okay, so you're probably thinking, this sounds great, but it must be super complicated to set up. Well, here's the best part. It's not. It all boils down to one single golden rule. Let's see what it is.
Just look at this totally standard resource block from a pod's YAML. You've got requests, that's what the pod needs to get started, and you've got limits, the absolute ceiling it can't go past. See anything interesting about the numbers?
And boom, there it is. That's the golden rule. It is just that simple. For every single container in your pod, and for both CPU and memory, the request's value has to be exactly the same as the limit's value.
And I really want to drive this home. That's it. That is the only requirement. There are no special flags, no weird annotations you have to remember. Just make your requests equal your limits, and boom, you've unlocked the highest tier of reliability Kubernetes has to offer. It's really that straightforward.
Okay, so why do we even care about this? Why does it matter so much? Well, the real payoff, the real magic, happens when things go wrong, when a node is getting slammed and running out of memory or CPU. This is where the different QoS classes really show you what they're made of.
So think of it like a spectrum. On one end, you've got your best effort pods. These guys are the first on the chopping block when the system needs to free up resources. But on the complete other side, that's where our guaranteed pods live. They are the absolute last to go. They're the survivors.
This table really lays it all out. At the very bottom, you have best effort. No resource specs defined, first to get evicted. Great for dev stuff. Then in the middle, you've got burstable, where requests are less than limits. This is probably where most of your web apps and APIs live. But right at the top, our VIP section is guaranteed. Requests equal limits, last to get evicted, and reserved for your absolute most critical services.
I mean, just let that sink in for a second. A guaranteed pod will never get evicted because some other app is going crazy and hogging resources. The only way it's going down is if the entire node itself fails. This is basically an ironclad shield for your most important workloads.
Okay, enough of the theory. Let's get our hands dirty and see how this actually works. I'm going to walk you through deploying a pod, and then, and this is the important part, how you can double-check that Kubernetes actually gave it the guaranteed status you wanted.
The whole process is super simple, really. First, you just create your YAML file, making sure you follow that golden rule, right? Requests equal limits. Then you just apply it to your cluster with a kube control apply. And then, the moment of truth. You use kube control describe pod to take a peek at the live object inside Kubernetes.
And this right here is what you want to see. When you describe that pod, you'll see the resource requests and limits you set. And right there, plain as day, Kubernetes will tell you QoS class guaranteed. That's your proof. That's your confirmation that the contract is sealed and your pod is protected. Awesome. So now we know the how. The next big question is the when. This guaranteed class is super powerful, but you don't want to just slap it on everything. It's all about strategy. Yeah, you really want to save this for your VIP applications. I'm talking about your critical stateful workloads, like databases, Postgres, Redis, things that absolutely cannot just vanish. Or think about your monitoring agents, right? The things that are supposed to tell you when other things are broken. Basically, the rule of thumb is, if this pod getting evicted would cause a real headache, like a major outage or data loss, it's a perfect candidate for guaranteed QoS.
But of course, there's always a trade-off, right? There's no free lunch here. Because you're carving out and reserving those resources up front, you can't overcommit them. This means your guaranteed pods are, well, more expensive in terms of cluster capacity. It also means you have to be a little more careful with your capacity planning to make sure there's always a node with a big enough chunk of resources free to actually schedule these critical pods.
All right, let's talk about a super common gotcha that trips people up. What happens if you have a pod with, say, 2 containers, but you only set requests equals limits on one of them? What does Kubernetes do then?
This is super important. Kubernetes looks at the entire pod as a single unit. So, if even one container in that pod fails to meet the golden rule for both CPU and memory, the whole shebang gets downgraded to the burstable class. It is totally an all-or-nothing deal.
Okay, another common misconception I hear all the time. People see the word guaranteed and they think faster, like it's going to get a performance boost. But is that what's really happening?
Not exactly. The real win here isn't about raw speed, it's about predictability. Your guaranteed pod won't suddenly get throttled or have its resources yanked away because a noisy neighbor is acting up. That means you get consistent, stable, predictable performance, which, for critical services, is often way more valuable than just peak speed. And before we wrap up, here's a little pro tip for you to enforce this as a best practice. You can use something in Kubernetes called a limit range. This thing lets you set default resource values for a whole namespace. Now, here's the cool part. If you set the default request to be the same as the default limit, any pod that gets created in that namespace without its own resource specs will automatically become guaranteed. It's a really slick way to build that reliability right in from the start.
So, there you have it. We've seen that getting the highest level of reliability in Kubernetes isn't about some secret, complex configuration. It's all about one simple, powerful rule. Requests must equal limits. It's your ticket to predictable performance, and it's how you shield your most important applications from chaos. So the only question left for you is, which of your applications are you going to go protect first?